Well, welcome to Cumberland County Commissioners meeting of Monday, November 8th, 2021 at 5:42. Generally it's 5:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Catherine, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Coward.
Here.
Commissioner Jameson.
Here.
Commissioner Gordon.
Here.
Commissioner Watonis.
Here.
Commissioner Cloutier.
Present.
All present and accounted for.
Thank you. Would those that care to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome. Glad to have our citizens watching and full board here tonight. And apparently we have no guests at the moment. First item of business, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 12th and the special meeting of October 22nd?
So moved.
Second. Is there any errors or omissions that want to be brought forth at this time? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Informational reports, presentation, 2021 home affordable projects and home ARP allocation. Jim?
Thank you. This item is being brought forth from Kristen Stiles over in the CDBG office to give you an update on the 2021 home affordable housing projects, and then talk a little bit about the home ARP or APA allocation that they received back in September. So I'll allow Kristen the opportunity here, and she's got a slideshow, a PowerPoint for the commissioners. It's all yours, Kristen.
Thank you. Kristen Stiles, Community Development Director. As you know, in May of each year, you approve our CDBG and home allocations. And the first thing I'll be presenting tonight is just our 2021 home projects. We received 4 home projects. They're in your packet. This year was pretty easy for us because we had a lot more funding than we usually do, which made it quite nice. The other thing that is really nice about affordable housing here in Cumberland County is all of the developers get along really well, and the goal of all of them is to create as much affordable housing as possible, which works really well when we're trying to figure out how much we should fund for each project, because what they do is try and figure out who is going to maximize their points with the LIHTC program through Maine Housing, and how much we could fund each project, and how much they really need, and how much the other projects really need in order for us to fund as much as possible. So the scores are a little bit, it's more of a community meeting that happens between all of the developers that have applied, of us figuring out with them, how can we maximize the amount of affordable housing that's going to get built here, and how can we maximize their ranking in the LIHTC application. So the projects that we had come forward are Durham Court in Cape Elizabeth. I have read in the paper since this came out that the number of units might have changed. They may have gotten rid of some of the 1-bedroom units to build a couple 3-bedroom units based on their community meetings. But overall, when they applied, it was 39 unrestricted affordable housing units and 10 market rate units. It'll be right in the center of town. And the award that we gave them was $132,000. The next project that we funded is Firehouse Village in Scarborough. They are building 31 units of senior housing and 1 efficiency unit. 31 units of senior housing, 30 units of or 1 bedroom and 1 efficiency unit. And we've awarded them $275,000. The third one that we're funding is Harrison Ridge in Bridgeton. They applied last year and we gave them funding. And then there was an environmental review issue that came up, and we had to take back that funding from them because they couldn't pass that environmental review piece that we're required to do before actually giving them the money. So when they applied this year, we made that guarantee that we would give them at least what they got last year if they met all the criteria that they needed to meet, which was $100,000 that we gave them last year. And this year we were able to give them $200,000. This year they're not going for the 9% LIHTC round, they're just going for the 4%, which means that this is pretty much guaranteed to be built in Bridgeton because they have everything in place. The last project that applied was Jocelyn Place in Scarborough. This project is very close to being under construction, but due to construction cost gaps, they had a huge financing gap that they couldn't move forward with closing on construction. So they had requested a lot of money from us, and what ended up happening is in that process, Maine Housing realized that this was a huge gap and this is a great project and it really needs to move forward. And so they were looking at a bunch of projects that were also in this similar boat and ended up covering their construction gaps, which was great for us because they were able to then not take the funds from these other projects that are earlier on in the process and really need that money, and got it funded through Maine Housing. So this one's still going forward, it's just that we're not funding it. And these are the 3 projects that we're funding this year. Does anyone have any questions about these?
Kristen, just an off topic point. Do the other 3, how were they affected by the cost of materials and that rise?
They're still early enough on in their development process that they're all working off estimates. And of course, those estimates, every time they get a new updated estimate, keeps changing and going up. And I assume that a good chunk of them are going to have large construction gaps by the time they move forward. But at least what we try and do is award them the funds before they're applying to Maine Housing. And by doing that, they're getting more points in the Maine Housing application. And then once they get further along with Maine Housing and get that tax credit funding from them, then they can work with Maine Housing on filling in that construction gap.
Thank you.
So the other big piece that we have going on right now is a program that came out of the American Rescue Plan Act. And this program is called Home ARP. It is part of our normal home allocation that we're getting, but it's falling under a very different set of guidelines and rules than our normal home funds fall under. So what happened was it was awarded as part of the American Rescue Plan. Then in May, they let us know how much we'd be getting and said that funding would become available, guidance would become available on how you could use those funds in the fall. So that guidance has become available, and a big chunk of that guidance is doing consultations. And what they want is to really have the PJs, which the program jurisdictions, which we are, is to work with the people in the community specifically related to homelessness and addressing homelessness. So unlike our regular home funds, these are specifically just for homelessness. So we have teamed up with Maine Housing because they gave us a very specific set of consultations that we need to do. And there's only 3 of us in the state that are getting these funds. It's the City of Portland, Cumberland County Home Consortium, Maine Housing, and Lewiston Auburn. And since there's only 3 of us, it makes sense if we just team up and work together because a lot of these consultations are statewide. So the consultations that we conducted were with the Maine COC, the Maine Shelter Network, the BIPOC Advisory Committee, advocates and people with lived experience, developers and community action agencies, homeless veteran action communities, and the public housing authorities. So the slideshow that I'm going to present to you here is actually Maine Housing slideshow that they have been presenting at all of these meetings. So we finished up the last meeting on Friday, and the goal now is Maine Housing is going to write up all of the suggestions from all of these meetings and going to send them out to us. And then our goal is with the City of Portland at that point to look at those suggestions and then hold more local meetings. So at that point, we will have a survey that we're planning to send out just to the general population, and then work with groups like Preble Street or others that do more specific work just in Cumberland County. They were on these statewide meetings, but just to work with them specifically about what they're seeing as our big needs. Was there a question? Okay. So Maine Housing will be getting 15.7 million. Lewiston Auburn is getting 1.7, and then Cumberland County, City of Portland is getting 3.6. Of that 3.6, Cumberland County's portion of it, the way we're dividing it is the same way that we always divide our home funds with the City of Portland. We'll be getting just under 1.4 million. So the process for this is to do all these consultations, and then just like you did a lot for us last year, we'll submit a substantial amendment to HUD with what we plan to use those funds on, and then we will release the application for whatever we have decided that we want to use, whatever Cumberland County and the City of Portland have decided that they want to use those funds on. And I just want to stress that this process is still that same public process that we always have of having all of the public meetings, and then the 30-day public comment period, and then the 45-day approval period from HUD. So this program, unlike our regular home funds that just benefit all low and moderate income individuals, this is specifically for people that are homeless, at risk of homelessness, or that are fleeing domestic violence, or at the greatest risk of housing instability. The problem with the greatest risk of housing instability is it's not well defined as to what that means for us. So we're working on trying to get further guidance from HUD on that one. And just like our regular home funds, we have 24 months after they are awarded to commit them to a project. The funds altogether expire in 2030. So the eligible activities, the first two are what we can always do with home funds, which is the preservation of affordable housing and the production of affordable housing, and then tenant-based rental assistance. We as a county don't use our home funds on a regular basis for tenant-based rental assistance because Maine Housing kind of has that covered for us, which is quite nice. And then we also have our CDBG funds that we do homeless prevention with. The bottom two are ones that we don't ever do this with home funds, and this is going to fall under a different guidance that we've never used before. So it's going to be quite interesting as they're trying to work out the kinks of what we can and can't do, which is the supportive services. We obviously know how to do that with our CDBG funds. It's just never fallen under home before, the home program. And then usually we have to build permanent housing. It cannot be any type of shelter with home funds. And now we're allowed to do non-congregate shelter. They're trying to get more clarification on what non-congregate shelter means. So, for example, if a hotel room has, a bathroom in the hotel room, but there's no place to cook, is that okay? Or do you also need a place to cook in order for that to be considered the non-congregate shelter? So they're working on getting a definition defined. So what Maine Housing has been seeing, as it's kind of similar to all of us, is during the pandemic, homelessness has obviously increased. Our shelter capacity has been reduced because of this, and there are non-congregate shelters, but we don't know if it's the same definition, happening at a bunch of hotels all around the state. You are all well aware of what's happening here in Cumberland County, and we obviously have more unsheltered individuals. For at risk of homelessness, we have 20,000 households in Maine that are home insecure. And then our centralized wait list, we have over 24,000 people waiting on that centralized wait list for housing. The time to get leased up is continuing to increase with every report that they come out with. And at the time that this slide was done, it was 12,000 people, households were using the emergency rental assistance. It's now up to 14,000 families that are receiving the emergency rental assistance. And then there is a decrease in moving to permanent housing, and the length that people are staying in the shelters has obviously gone up because people are not able to move into that permanent housing. As we can see here, in 2020, 2021, it's been increasingly difficult for folks to move into that permanent housing because there's no homes to move into. Cumberland County is particularly struggling in this area, especially the greater Portland region. For the recent responses, these are all programs that are up, running, and created through other funding sources, is the rapid rehousing, the emergency rental assistance, homeless diversion program, and the eviction prevention program. The majority of that is being funded through, blanking on the name of it, it was the act that was passed in December of last year, the Continuing Resolution Act, I believe it was, that's funding the emergency rental assistance. So some of the bottlenecks that we're seeing and what the plan is statewide, and we would like to do this plan if that's all right with you, is to figure out the most strategic investment for these home funds, what's going to make the biggest impact long-term here in Cumberland County for these home ARP funds that we'll be receiving. And just to point out, we don't have the money yet, just the same way with our regular home and CDBG funds. We request it on a reimbursement basis. You know, once the project's going along, then we request the funds from them, but it's sitting in an account for us. And what's going to be the greatest opportunity to have the biggest impact here in Maine, and particularly for us here in Cumberland County? And then what are the biggest needs and what are the biggest gaps? So these are the questions that at the end of each of the presentations, we are asking those groups of people. What are they seeing in their particular shelters, in their housing authorities? What are they seeing as what would help them for us to do with those funds? So once that's written up, I'd be happy to send that along to all of you of what those individuals, stakeholders thought were the biggest needs in our community. And then here are a couple links to where the info is located on the HUD Exchange of where the guidance is. Just like all of our programs, this is not a super fast process, but we do want to move it along as fast as we can and make the strategic right decisions. I'm happy to take any questions.
Commissioners have any questions? Jim?
Kristen, I'm wondering whether part of this process will include at least some baseline statistical information about what people believe is the gross number of homeless people, how many of those people are thought to be veterans, how many are thought to be mentally ill, those kind of sorted, I suppose, demographic data that might help us better understand the scope of the issue.
This is one of the great things about Maine Housing welcoming us and partnering with us on this, is they have access to all of those numbers. And so it's a lot easier for them to pull those numbers than for us to try and create some type of our own survey or collect that, because they are the ones doing that. So it's going to be really helpful for us to be able to do that, and I'm pretty sure that they'll be able to separate that out for Cumberland County and for the city of Portland just on its own. So that will be, we can definitely pull those numbers. Whatever we do, we definitely want it to be statistic based.
That's great. I think that's been missing for a long time.
Yes.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Kristen. We don't need a motion here, Jim, or anything? No? Okay. The next item of business is comments from the public. We do not have any here, and just as a reminder to people, should they want to come in the future, there is a 2-minute time limit per person. Next item is consent agenda approvals. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Let me put forth the items. It's item 21088, approve the Sheriff's Office commissions. Item 2189, approve the amended Sheriff's Office FOAA fee schedule. Item 2190, approve by vote to accept the forfeiture of some assets. that the state has to the county. Item 21091, authorize the CCEMA Director to accept Homeland Security Grant Program funds. Item 21092, accept the Secretary of State's redistricting plan for the County Commissioners' representative geographic areas. Item 21093, award contracts to Mechanical Services of Portland for a courthouse boiler. And that, just for the public's knowledge, that item was discussed during the workshop. And that is the extent of the consent agenda. Is there any discussion, or does any commissioner wish to take an item off? Seeing none, those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. So the consent agenda passes. Thank you. Now we move to an APRA item, and we do this singularly because it's federal funds. Item 21094. May I have a motion to award a bid to SMRT Inc. of Portland for $911,125 of APRA funds for the engineering and design work of multiple specified projects?
So moved.
Second.
Jim, do you want to have any comments on this?
Sure, thank you. This item's being brought forward for the engineering and design services for a number of items that the commissioners have previously approved the staff moving forward with. Some of those projects, and I won't list them all because I can't remember them all, but some of the bigger ones include the jail medical wing expansion, the air handler 1 here in this courthouse side of the building, an addition or an expansion at the communications dispatch room, the exploration and design of an installation of a generator at the Cross Insurance Arena, the design and installation of an airlock at the Cross Insurance Arena, preventing cold air from rushing up from the loading docks into the bowl. Projects like that, they all got put into an RFP. We asked for design service quotes. We received 3 bids. Staff went through a interview process over the last week to interview the 3 bidders, and they bring forth the low bid, SMRT of Portland, Maine, in the amount of $911,125 for the work as described in the RFP. So I'd ask for the commissioners to accept that bid amount and award this contract to SMRT. Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is new business, and we'll take these items one at a time. Item 21095, may I have a motion to authorize the county manager to award the bid for regional analysis of impediments to fair housing study, to root policy research. It's a joint effort funded with the city of Portland. I believe Kristen is going to
Correct.
address this issue.
Kristen Stiles, Community Development Director. This is a requirement from HUD that we do an analysis to impediments to fair housing. It was for a short time affirmatively furthering fair housing, and now it's back to being an analysis. This is required for our home and CDBG programs. We are paying for this completely out of our home funds. We have extra admin that we were able to get through a COVID waiver. And we had 9, I believe it was 9 firms that bid on this project. This firm was definitely the most qualified. We interviewed 4. They were the most qualified, and what we liked about them was they actually had a connection to Cumberland County and knew Cumberland County, unlike a lot of the other firms that had not been here before. So we thought that when they go to do public meetings, the chance of understanding where folks in the community are coming from would be greater.
Thank you. I don't think I got a motion. Did I get a motion?
I'll move passage.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Next item, 21, thank you, Kristen, I appreciate that. Excuse me. 21096, may I have a motion to authorize the contribution of $15,000 to the town of Raymond towards the repairs of the public safety boat stationed on Sebago Lake.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Discussion. Commissioner Botonis.
I think on this, that even the sheriff is having some reservations on this, because it's been several years since we have actually, gone out on Sebago Lake with Marine Patrol, and that is due to the lack of staffing of the sheriff's office. So, I am not supportive of this, because I don't know if by giving them the 15,000, will we be able to go out next year or within other 2 years? So I kind of side with the sheriff on this, that he would like to go out, but he doesn't see this happening in the near future. So I am not going to support the $15,000, because I don't know with what that's going to do, that $15,000. So I'm not in support of it, and I don't know if Jim has anything, to add to that, if he's had some conversations with the sheriff on this or not.
Do you want Commissioner Cludier to speak first? Or you
Yeah,
do-
go ahead.
Yeah, I had a few doubts about that, but I read the file materials twice, and kind of noticed that we're being asked, or the suggestion is that we make a $15,000 contribution to a project that's well over $100,000. It has a public safety purpose. We've used it in the past. The reason, or at least one of the reasons why we're not using it now or recently, is a shortage of deputy sheriff staffing. And this is not the next public safety project that the sheriff's office would be interested in pursuing if it had additional qualified staff available, which is, frankly, constantly seeking at this point. There are other public safety requests and demands on the sheriff's office, but my overall impression is we were offering about fully less than 20% of the cost of doing this. Looks like the town is either doing it themselves or finding funding in other places as well. So, in that sense, we're leveraging our contribution 7-to-1, or 1-to-7, however you want to think of that math. So I thought it was a reasonable thing to do, to make a grant like that. I did read that the sheriff had other priorities for sure, but that was not to, disparage this one. They'd used it in the past, and there may come a time when, the access to alcohol, or too much boating, or too many jet skis, or something is going to pull in a requirement that somebody be out there on that boat, and it'll be a useful boat to do something for public safety. So I thought it was a reasonable idea to make a contribution.
Mr. Manager, you wish to?
Well, I was just going to follow up. The reason why I brought this forward was a conversation that I had with the town manager of Raymond, in which he described the boat and the relationship between the town of Raymond, public safety, and the sheriff's office over the years, in which the sheriff's office used the boat for periodic patrols out on Sebago Lake. Those patrols were more of a goodwill patrol, not there to write tickets and enforcement, but to have a presence on the lake. So there has been a relationship on using the boat over the years. Just over the last year, the boat became in disrepair because of some blown motors. The motors, and the sheriff's office was not responsible for the blown motors, to the best of my knowledge.
So
Over the last
the
number of-
concept of an oil change could help there with, in the future.
Over the last year, that, the boat has been completely rehabbed at over $100,000 in costs. The 2 new motors were put on. The town select board is not looking at any $1, or even the manager's looking for any $1. The $15,000 came out of my idea of that would be a fair contribution to the effort. I just feel, and I understand the sheriff's stance on this, as he is lacking in patrol deputies, and if you're lacking in patrol deputies, you can't make this a priority come summertime. However, I do also think that this boat is rehabbed for the next 15 years, and things do change. And this is one asset that we don't have under our control, but if we pay a small marginal amount towards this, we can always ask for the use of it. And for whatever reason down the road that we may need to get out on Fry Island or out into the lake for some reason, I just felt as though this would be a worthwhile opportunity for us to make a small token contribution to the improvements that were done to that boat. So one caveat I would have on this is that with the rehab of the boat did lose the county seal and any identification that Cumberland County jointly uses the boat, which was on the previous boat before it was rehabbed. I would ask for that to get put back on to show us that we have some stake in the boat and identify ourselves when we're out in the lake. So that's really what it comes down to. I understand over the next year, 2 years, it may not be a manned boat by the sheriff's office, but I also see that things change over time, and I believe a small token could preserve a working relationship between the town of Raymond and Cumberland County. So, thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, I'll support this. I think the reasons are clear. This is a small piece on a long-term thing, and we don't need it now, but we might need it in the future. And I also think it's important to maintain good relations with the various town governments. This is some small piece they've asked for, and I think we can we can do this. In the context of our budget, it's a tiny thimbleful into a lake full of money. So I'm not worried about that. I'm happy with this.
Any other comments? Then I will call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That I could support this if we are assured that our decals, either the sheriff's office, our decals will go back on the boat, or the county, our decal goes back on the boat.
Well, that, and to go along with that, pick up and make sure of is that we have reasonable availability of it, should we need it. Okay, well, I guess it passes. Do you want to change your vote?
No.
Okay. Item 21097, may I have a motion to approve amendments to Administrative Regulations number 3 and number 5?
I'll move. Second.
Jim, you want to explain what 3 and 5 are?
Sure. In your consent agenda, you approved the sheriff's office FOIA fee schedule. Admin regulation number 3 is the county courthouse's FOIA schedule. We need to change this due to past legislation that came out of last session, provided some amendments to the state statute that governs the fees that a government body can charge for FOIA requests. And so I won't get too far into it, but it does change things up in terms of what you can charge for photocopies, how many hours free. It went from 1 to 2 hours are now free, but you can also charge additional hours after that for a greater dollar amount. So that's in a nutshell. It's all in accordance with state statute that came into effect within the last 30 or 60 days, and we just needed to change things up. Admin reg number 5 is our purchasing policy, and the purchasing policy I'm bringing forward to the major change there is adjusting the threshold that needs to be met to go out to formal bid. We had a $20,000 threshold. Anything over $20,000 would need to be a formal bid. That is, in today's world, I think you can sneeze and spend $20,000. And to send something out to formal bid, it's quite time-consuming and costly. And so we wanted to propose that we increase that $20,000 threshold up to $75,000. That would allow us to go out to formal bid anything over $75,000. We also would change what it meant to get us up to $75,000. So anything under $15,000 would now be allowed after a price shopping, per se, is done. Anything from $15,000 to $75,000, you would need to get 3 quotes, and then anything over $75,000 would need to go out to formal bid. Much like we did on the previous ARPA for engineering and design services. We went out to a formal bid on that. Another change that proposed is under the exemptions from competitive bidding. An insertion here that says, staff, upon the approval of the county manager or finance director, shall have the ability to use a recent town or county competitive bid for the same product being purchased. The competitive bid used shall not be more than 8 months old. So that is if, for instance, the city of Portland went out to competitive bid for police cruisers. And we felt as though that was a worthwhile bid, and it was within an 8-month period of time. We could piggyback if we were bidding the same exact. It has to be 1 for 1. It can't be apples and oranges. But it would allow us to piggyback on another government body's bid, as long as it was no older than 8 months old. I also propose an example talking about exemptions from competitive bidding sole source. As the commissioners have heard from me over the last number of months about sole source bidding because we have some proprietary equipment, in particular our HVAC or our fire alarm systems or our boiler systems. We have proprietary equipment that kind of locks us into a particular vendor. And what I did under this section, I just talked about an example, and the example I say proprietary controls / software, etc., and going out to bid could yield a significant cost. And that's what we found when we brought forth the fire alarm system a couple of months ago to you down at the jail in the community corrections building, is that if we went out to bid for that fire alarm system, we would have been changing out panels and everything else versus just the heads. So to have the ability to go out and sole source to the company that does the A to Z from the panel to the heads, it saved us a significant dollar amount. So I just wanted to provide some clarification within the language on that sole source bid. Other than that, that is it. I am available for questions, and I'd ask for your support of amending Regulation 3 and 5. Thank you.
Discussion? Jim?
I just wonder, Jim, does anybody know how much revenue we actually get from FOIA charges from year to year? Do we have a ballpark on that?
I can tell you, I can't give you a dollar amount. I'll tell you the two locations that get the most would be the communications department, because they get inquiries and requests for call logs and CDs, and the jail LEC, law enforcement.
Do you have an order of magnitude at all, or do you know?
I don't, Alex, do you?
Yeah, dispatch, it doesn't particularly tend to be a large number because while they get a lot of requests, they are typically very easily filled, so they don't end up having a cost to them. At the sheriff's office, that can be tens to $20,000 annually at most, and that's through a large number of usually transcript similar requests that they're putting out just by high volume, and that's pretty much countywide. Up here, they're infrequent enough that big dollar amounts to them are pretty rare, so they don't generate
All right, thanks.
significant income relative to the work they put in.
I don't have any objection to any of the proposed changes.
Jim, is there any other technology that can be used to fulfill that requirement? Like, can we electronically transfer it to the requester?
Well, thank you for asking that, because I was just going to talk about that. Yes, most requesters ask for it to be electronically transferred. And that is a loophole that I feel, as the staff person that handles some of these FOIA requests, that they don't have to pay for photocopy fees. However, if they ask us for a FOIA request and it requires us to print out all kinds of paper and then look through it and redact it and then stick it in the photocopier and scan it, and then they get the scan, we still have leftover paper that we just made all these photocopies on with. So, you know, the copies are being made, whether the copies are being shipped to the requester or the scan's being shipped to the requester. That's a big loophole, and it's costing us photocopy usage and paper usage, and we end up just filing of the paper away in the FOIA. So, you know, that's something that I've been meaning to talk to Brenda Kelty up at the state of Maine, who's the ombudsman for freedom of access, about whether there's any collection that we can make or on that type of document, because someone could ask for 500 emails, we would have to print them off, look through them, redact them, scan them, and they got a free scan, but we got a ream of paper left over with no fee associated with it.
Would there be a fee associated with the time in that, anyway?
There would be. It used to be 1 hour was free. Now it's 2 hours is free. And then the fee schedule then proposes any additional hour over 2 hours is $25. We did have probably within the last 2.5 years, we did have a very large FOIA request from the Bangor Daily News, which was upwards of about $600 or $700. And we had to give them an estimated cost before we even started on what we felt would be the cost associated with that review, because it was significant staff time.
Maybe we could take the approach that the court takes. If it's not in there, you can, and doesn't say you can't do it, you set up your own fee.
Fair enough. I think I'd like to talk to Brenda Kelty first.
We've got a photocopier of my office that's so slow, you'd always get a fee.
Is there any other discussion? No. All right, those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. May I have a motion to, item 21098, may I have a motion to recognize and approve the Spirit of America Award recipients?
So moved.
Second?
James?
Thank you. 2021, we have another list of Spirit Award recipients, and I'd like to bring those recipients forth tonight. As the commissioners have talked prior, Again, we will miss out on the opportunity to recognize these worthy individuals in person, just because of COVID restrictions that we have. However, we will make sure that a nice letter and the certificate is mailed out to each, and in return, we'd ask for them to email back a photo of them receiving their awards so that we can put it with a slideshow for our website, as directed by the commissioners back in this, I think it was either the September or the 1st of October meeting. So that's our game plan. But recipients of this year's 2021 Spirit of America Awards in New Gloucester, it's the Eagles Club, 4131. In Cape Elizabeth, it's the Community Ice Rink Organization. In Naples, it's the Naples Rec and Activities Committee. In Portland, it's Nadine Pembiel. In North Yarmouth, it's Solar Research Committee. In Raymond, it's Gary Babu. In town of Sebago, it's the Sebago Lions Club. And in Yarmouth, it's Jack Vigu. So congratulations to all well deserving of the recognition of Spirit
I
of...
think you got
There's
some
one
more.
more page, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there we go, okay.
I gotta say, it was a short list.
The town of Gray, Donna Rand. Cumberland, the Cumberland Lands and Conservation Commission. Town of Baldwin, Sharon Thomas. And our website has all the descriptions of what these worthy community groups or individuals have done over the last year and got nominated for. And we'd ask the public, if they're interested, just look into the packet of tonight's meeting, and all that information's right there. So congratulations all, and we will soon be in touch with a nice certificate in recognition of all their hard work. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, it passes. Item 21099, may I have a motion to authorize the transfer of 2021 funds into reserve accounts?
So moved.
James?
Thank you. This is a request that we typically make towards, I think it was December last year, it was passed in January. This year we have done, or Alex has done, some early forecasting, and we find out where our revenues are coming in very strong. And in anticipation of the year end, just a mere 45 days away it's now, we'd like to bring forth a list of capital projects that we would like to allocate some 2021 funding into reserve accounts to cover this these capital projects. These projects would be projects that would be inserted into a budget, whether it was the 2022 budget or a budget soon after that. And if we're able to use it with year-end fund balance in the 2021 budget, I think that's the most appropriate use versus putting these projects on the tax rate. The projects would be a redesign and reconfiguration of the Law Enforcement Center's parking lot at $400,000. $350,000 to go towards an administrative building design and engineering. $100,000 going into website redesign and miscellaneous projects to be named later. $75,000 for a garage payment kiosk and associated software. $30,000 in EMA interior upgrades, and $20,000 into the district attorney's computer hardware account, as the courts have recently moved into the paperless age, and there needs to be some hardware costs associated with that in our district attorney's office. So we'd ask for $975,000 to be placed into a reserve account, so that over the next number of months or a year, we can tackle these worthwhile projects.
Discussion? Jim?
Am I correct in assuming that in the, as these projects go forward, if other sources of funding evidence themselves, then there wouldn't be any great problem in rearranging the funding for all of this.
Correct.
Is that, yeah, I'm fine with it.
Anybody else? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, it passes. Item 21-100. May I have a motion to approve the 2020-2021 financial incentives for spectrum management?
So moved.
I'll second.
Jim?
I'm up. This is an annual item that gets brought forth each fall, and that is to present the financial incentive fee benefiting Spectrum Management, who oversee the running of the cross-insurance arena for the county. In the management agreement that we have with Spectra, there is this incentive fee that is based on three different formulas. The first is the financial formula, the second is a food and beverage formula, and then the last one is qualitative. Everything is based off of a fixed management fee, which was pegged at $109,000 this year. 50% of that goes towards the financial incentive fee, 30% to the food and beverage, and 20% into qualitative. Needless to say, because of the cross-insurance arena being dark over the last year, for the most part, I'm presenting this item a very minimal fee, as in compared to past years, of just $15,961. Because of the arena being dark, they were unable to make the financial incentive fee. They were unable to make the food and beverage financial incentive fee. But on the qualitative, it is more of a discretionary fee, and it is broken out into four different areas. The first is customer service, the second is quality of food, the third is achievement of goals, and the fourth is maintenance and repairs. And over the last year, even though we were dark, we did have some events in the building. We also had time to do a lot of maintenance in the building, and cosmetic maintenance, painting and things like that, which came down to maintenance and repair scored, customer service scored, quality of food scored, because there were some smaller events. I think we have 1 or 2 wedding parties in there. In all, it scored a 14.59% out of a 20% maximum, which resulted in a $15,961.07 fee. So I bring forth this evening a request for the county commissioners to accept this financial fee. Actually, I shouldn't say financial, this incentive fee for Spectrum Management for the 2021 fiscal year. Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. For the public, we've got item 21-101, which is an executive session I'm going to ask the commission to go into. And I will say that, let me explain it to you, is that it will take a little bit of time. I'm suspecting somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes, possibly. And after which we will be voting on potentially 2 motions. You're certainly welcome to wait around if you want, but I'm just letting you know that. May I have a motion to enter in executive session pursuant to MRSA 405-6D and 405-6A? The Cumberland County Commission will go into executive session for the discussion of contract negotiations and compensation.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're in executive, not, please shut up here. Well, welcome back. We need a motion to come out of executive session.
Does I make a motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
It's 7:22. I would like, there are a couple of motions here that I'd like to run by the commission here for their action. The first is, I'd like a motion to approve the second extension to the lease agreement between Cross Insurance Arena and Portland Hockey LLC for the extension of the lease for the 22-23 and the 23-24 seasons, and a county option for the 24-25 season.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
The second one, that pertains to the, I'm sorry, I
Right.
broke it up into two, but the second one is I'd like to make a motion that the county commissioners approve the extension of the ticket subsidy of $2 per ticket sold and $1 per ticket sold facility fee for the 22-23 and the 23-24 seasons.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Favor.
The second, or the second topic, the third motion here is, I'd like a motion that the county-sponsored vaccination incentive of $2,000 for full-time and $750 for part-time applies to all employees, county officials, county officers, and contracted jail medical staff.
So moved.
I'll second.
Those in, discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Move we adjourn.
Wait a minute, no.
No,
No, Jim, we're not done yet.
Sue's got a question.
I got a question for Jim. So Jim, where are we as far as the homelessness and a study to be done out in the Lakes region?
As the commissioners are aware, back in October, I provided you letters that I had received from the city of Portland and Tedford House, two entities that are going through raising capital currently to support the construction of new homeless shelters. We're very familiar with the one in Portland here. Tedford House is doing one up in Brunswick, up just past Cook's Corner. And both of them are trying to cobble together the appropriate level of funding to pull the projects off. I provided you those letters in anticipation and knowledge that the request had been made. As I stated that evening, at some point, I'd like to circle back around with the commissioners on talking about our contributions to homelessness within our region. And when I say that, I talk about the Tedford House project, the City of Portland's project. I believe Preble Street is out there that has a project, and we are very interested in doing a feasibility study, as the commissioner just raised, up in the Lakes region. So I'm hoping that maybe we can put this on the workshop agenda at the end of this month when we talk about the budget, and have that dialogue and see where the commissioners want to go. So that's my plan, at least in my head.
Jim, you made mention of it. What's the date you propose for the second meeting?
I think it's August.
August.
Jeez. November 22nd?
I think that's right.
Oh, it's before Thanksgiving?
Yep.
Yes, yeah, it's November 22nd would be a workshop.
That's the Monday, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, same time,
Yep. And,
and that'll be live.
or Zoom.
That'll be live.
Okay, and then any other things for the good of the order?
Do we have to do the county?
Comments from the county manager.
Right, yeah,
I got a few things, if I
Yes.
could have some
Okay.
airtime.
sure.
First, I want to pass on, as I emailed many of you, or all of you, this afternoon, our Corporation Council's notes around the President Biden's handing down of the vaccination mandate or weekly testing. OSHA has come out with a 400-plus page set of guidelines that
Almost
staff.
500, isn't it?
Yeah, all right, Don corrected me. He said, what, 490?
Yeah.
490 pages. So HR and our public health manager are working on getting through that document. Staff have a meeting on Wednesday of this week to talk further around that document. You know, it's still a work in progress, and we also have an appeals court down in, what, the 5th District, did I see?
Mississippi.
Mississippi have appeal filed in it over the weekend, so that's gonna probably put the, a little delay, but I don't see too much delay. So we are still moving forward as the requirements set forth in the document, but there's a lot to learn and the ins and outs of. So more later on that. I want to let the commissioners know that over the last week and a half, I have been in 2 separate conversations with managers and the Finance Committee around looking at public safety within our region. Police, fire, EMS, animal control. There are some significant gaps and reductions in force that our region's experiencing in those 4 areas. And the Finance Committee asked a lot of questions around that when they were deliberating our budget. I had lunch with the Lakes Region managers last week, and there was dialogue around police and fire and animal control during that lunch. And I subsequently, because of the knowledge of now 2 groups raising it over a week's time, I sent out an email to the county managers, not county managers, the town managers within Cumberland County, inquiring whether there was any interest in meeting, and there is. And so we're going to be meeting up for our initial meeting next week, and we will see where that conversation takes place. I don't see this as a item that all communities will jump into, but I think there are pockets of the communities that are having difficult times that will be interested in going through some kind of possible study that I would petition the commissioners to funding at a later date. So I just wanted to give you the heads up that dialogue's out there and an upcoming meeting is scheduled. But again, more later, once we get through that first initial meeting, we know what the desires of the towns are within our region.
Where is that meeting and when?
It's gonna be on Zoom.
Oh, Zoom?
Yep. We did finish up our Finance Committee process about a week and a half ago now. The Finance Committee, I have to give a lot of thanks to the Finance Committee this year. What a phenomenal group of individuals that we had on the Finance Committee. Very thoughtful, fantastic questions. The chair, Selectman Dustin Ward out of New Gloucester, did a phenomenal job bringing the committee and staff through the process. Can't say enough about the group, and they're really eager to jump back in it next year. So that's all good. In the end, there wasn't any changes to the proposed budget. They made a lot of recommendations on what they would like to see next year play out and how it would play out in the budget or the budget process, but they took this year as a learning process, and they thought that the budget was appropriately put together, and they're bringing a favorable recommendation for adoption to the county commissioners. So it's my hopes that we'll meet up on the 22nd, and we can talk about the budget and the budget process a little bit more in a workshop setting. On the 22nd, I'd also like to talk about the commissioner's desires of restarting our initiative that got postponed due to COVID, and that was changing our calendar year budget over to a fiscal year budget. That's something that, this is a timely time to talk about it, because once we get into January, we could begin notifying the towns. We have towns actually asking when we're going to reinstitute that, so it is on the town's radar that's out there. So I'd just like to talk quickly on the commissioner's desires on the 22nd. Lastly, while I have the opportunity for some advertising, we do have ads in the 4 or 5 districts for the forecaster this month, announcing our board vacancies. We have, in the Cross Assurance Arena Board of Trustees, we have Trustee District 1, which is vacant because of John Jennings has resigned from city manager in Portland, is headed south. So his position is vacant, and so we will be needing to fill that. We have the Trustee District 2, Cape Elizabeth and South Portland, and Trustee District 5, Brunswick, Freeport, Harpswell, Pownell, and New Gloucester. Those 2 are opening up.
John doesn't want to.
No, they all open up, and then the incumbents can put in again. Yeah. Under the American Rescue Plan Advisory Board that the commissioners have established, we have all 5 commission districts open, and we're taking applications for. And then under the Board of Assessment Review, we have an at-large position open that we are taking applications for. We're asking for a Wednesday, November 24th, 2021 deadline. That is largely for the advisory board for the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act board, and the Cross Insurance Arena. The Board of Assessment Review, that will remain open, and applications can be submitted at any time. There's no timing on that. So, and that concludes my communications. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. You have no other, oh, Alex.
I was going to sing the praises of the Finance Committee as well and how fascinating it was. I would say it's, the videos of those particular meetings could even be rewatched in terms of some of the really interesting directions that they took things and sort of the new angles they were coming at. Seeing a bunch of brand-new faces on the Finance Committee all together from really all across the county, really putting a lot of brain power towards it was really quite a great result. And so I'd just like to say, yeah, that was a strong committee.
Great. Comments from the county commissioners. Commissioner Matonis.
No, just one thing, on the Spirit Award, I understand that it's a new, layout this year, and I think Travis did it, so I would like to congratulate him on the new layout. I know he put some time and effort into it, with that, and I think he deserves some recognition, and, again, my same sentiments on the Finance Committee. It was a very good committee, where they were good meetings, some very interesting with things that they've asked for. I thought Jim and Alex, they did a wonderful job, to get them with the information back, and that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Cludier.
No, I don't have anything this week.
Commissioner Neil Jamison.
I'll take Jim's, I only have a few minutes. I just want to, as we approach Thanksgiving, wish all the families out there that you can be together and that you are safe and that you're thankful for all the good things that have happened in a difficult time. We are 80%, 75% vaxxed in Cumberland County, and so protect your families, keep everyone safe. If you haven't been vaccinated, there's certainly plenty of opportunity now still to be vaccinated, so consider that. But mostly I want everyone to have a great Thanksgiving in a few weeks and take some well-deserved time off with their families. And also want to thank, again, our executive staff here, Jim and Alex and everyone, for doing a fantastic job sailing our ship and doing more, accomplishing more than we ever would have imagined in these difficult financial times. So thank you guys and gals, and everyone have a great holiday.
Commissioner Callaway.
Yeah, I certainly echo the thanks to the staff and other folks that have helped us power through this year and this pandemic. A special thanks to the Finance Committee members. It's refreshing that we've managed to get a very active committee and with the plethora of members. I remember I started my so-called career in county government as a member of the Finance Committee many years ago. And it was interesting then, and you know, I'm happy that people are seeing the interest in that, and I'm looking forward to you know, to next year when they have a little experience under their belts, and they may be able to give us a little more help, a little more guidance on that. But thank you very much. It's a detail-oriented and time-consuming job, but I'm happy that that function is happening again. Again, Thanksgiving season is coming up. It's getting dark in the evenings now. Be careful be careful when you're outside. Be careful when you're driving, and have a safe holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to take a little bit off on what Jim spoke about, because I've been thinking about this for a while. And its local culture is important. COVID-19 has and is stirring foundational local government changes. If there were a way to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, we as Mainers may be seeing the glimmer of such. In talking with local citizens as I wander around our county, one of the issues that oftentimes expressed by us, to us, is how do we solve some of our common community services together? What a concept. As if all of us haven't given that consideration to our own homes, businesses, and especially our religious and service organizations. COVID has made us recognize these are serious times and expose serious issues that hold serious consequences for us, our communities, and their expenses, including this your county. I ask you personally to please give some serious thought as to how we might better work local services together in an effort to save your, our, and my local culture and communities. Thank you. And with that, unless there's some other comment, you've announced the workshop. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Yes, sir.
We're adjourned.